Oh my goodness. So some really creative things happening on the screen here. And we are at 10 after the hour. Your window of opportunity to contribute to our collaborative drawing is getting smaller. So add your contribution. I'm going to take a screenshot. Your face is not in the screen, but I'm going to say, everybody smile. 1, 2, 3. All right. And I'm going to ask you to pause your annotations. I'm going to clear all the annotations. Nope. That's not where I do it. We're gonna cheat in the stop and restart method. And all right. So here we are. And I'm in my map. Screen sharing is paused. How do I resume share? There we go. Can I get a thumbs up? Do you guys see it? No. Stop share. That's what happened. All right. Here's my Zoom. Share my screen. Google Chrome. Do you guys see it now? Why does it say resume? iPhone. Resume share.
It says you're sharing the screen. But nothing is being shared. So they want to check and make sure you're sharing the right screen.
Okay. Let's do that. So I'm so glad that I have my friend Haley here. Haley's gonna drive and I will narrate. Haley is now the co-host. Haley is sharing her screen. All right. So here we are. Today's workshop is called Growing Gratitude. It is about the impact and the importance of appreciation and using appreciation, not just with our participants, but for ourselves as well. So we are recording, and if at any point this workshop is not serving you, that is quite all right. But I encourage you to participate to the best of your ability. And we're going to go over some things that I hope you will find helpful either for your personal or your professional practice. So next slide. There we go. My name is Bryn Lodig, and I am a professional experiential educator. For a long time, I have worked in public schools as well as at camp. And Camp Manitowish uses wilderness tripping, so overnight experiences in tents, traveling via canoe, backpack, or kayak, along with traditional challenge course and activities on the ground to teach leadership, group dynamic skills. Working there informed my practice at a local public school as the adventure program coordinator. And when I met my co-founder, who was a school social worker in the Chicago district, the two of us got together and we built a digital platform to make experiential and social emotional learning activities more accessible for teachers at their fingertips, as well as facilitators. Kendra is not here, but Haley is, and Haley is a wonderful trusted member of our team, the Kikori team that makes things so pretty. So in the chat or aloud, we're not that big of a group. I want to know who's here. Where do you live? Where do you work? Maybe even who you work with. This is a map of the world. We have been so fortunate to have a number of friends joining us from outside of the United States. And this map also is a map of the indigenous lands. And so my land acknowledgement is that I live, work, and play on the ancestral homelands of the Lake Superior Chippewa Indians. And I recognize that they stewarded this land long before me and my relatives got here. While a land acknowledgement is only part of it, I encourage you to explore what place-based and culturally relevant information, practices, or activities you can incorporate into where you live and work. All right. So here is an opportunity for you to grab the QR code and download Kikori if you haven't already. If you already have, go ahead and toss in the chat that you have it, you use it, you have it, you're not using it yet. And we can also put these QR codes back up in a moment. All right, so today's topic is growing gratitude. And I wanted to start with a poll. And so Haley, you could go to the next slide, but I want you guys to click all of the choices that apply to you. All right, we've got some answers coming in. Thank you guys for participating. And the reason that I put those very specific things in the poll is that if you make $30,000 a year or more, your income is 10 times the global median, and it's within the top 5% of income worldwide. So that alone is something to be grateful for. However, there's a lot of us that's a benchmark where we struggle with that gratitude. 73% of this group says that they are 35 years or older. Historically, many people died before they even reached 35. And so we can be grateful that our lives have reached this, because that's above average for a historical and worldview. People who live in a democratic country, if you have a college degree or access to healthcare, stable housing, those of us who can say yes to those things, even one of those things, our lives are objectively better than more people around the world. And I say objectively because gratitude is something that is really hard to embrace and embody when we are constantly bombarded by annoyances or inconveniences that happen throughout our day or our week. So fortune is automatic, and there's an underlying psychology that is like the enemy of gratitude. It is very easy to the example that was told to me lately is that it's very easy to recognize a headwind when you are feeling resistance. And it's a lot harder to give credit to a tailwind. So if you think about if you are hiking or paddling or doing anything where there is resistance in your face, you feel it and you're aware of it all the time. But if there's an external force that is helping push you along, it is very easy for our brains and our bodies to assume that we're doing it on our own, or to discredit that assistance that the universe is giving us. And so while there's much in our lives and our students' lives and our children's lives to be grateful for, there is psychology there that is working against us. And so we're just going to talk about a few of those things today, and then ways that we can practice growing that gratitude. So in the next slide, we're going to talk about the benefits of gratitude. So there's psychological benefits. When we have positive emotions and thoughts, we're more aware, we can feel more awake. There's increased self-satisfaction and enhanced mood. But there's also physical benefits. So when you feel grateful, it affects your immune system. It affects your pains and aches, your blood pressure, and even your sleep-wake cycles, because when you are feeling grateful, you sleep deeper and longer. The social benefits is that a grateful person has kinder, more empathetic communication. Their relationships are better socially, and other people will view a grateful person as more likable, and they tend to be more involved as a team member. And so there's lots of reasons to practice gratitude, but again, it is that modern day inconvenience or annoyances that really tend to prevent us from practicing that gratitude. However, if you go to the next slide, we have this beautiful, wonderful thing called neural plasticity. And basically the neurons in our brain, you can think of them as pathways, and you can remake these pathways to rewire our brain by practicing gratitude. And the simple way of doing it is that if you can think of 3 things that you're grateful for every day, name 3 things. A multi-sensory approach is fantastic. If you say them aloud, if you think them, if you write them down, act them out, then you can change the neural plasticity, change the wiring of your brain to be more grateful so that you get to feel all of those benefits that were shown in the last graphic. The next slide talks about how gratitude can boost a neurotransmitter. So serotonin, a lot of times we hear commercials about SSRIs. So serotonin is our natural happy drug that is produced from within our body, as well as dopamine, which is our reward chemical. So, and our pleasure chemical. And so the more that we think those positive, grateful, happy thoughts, the healthier and the happier we will feel. So there's chemistry behind it. The other thing is that when you're under stress, well, the nature of thoughts, whether they are positive or negative, they tend to manifest in our behavior, and not just our behavior or our actions, but also our habits. So if you constantly think about a negative thing, it becomes not just a thought, but then a behavior and then a habit. And so we can do it, the positive and the negative. So there's lots of us, and it is very, very common. I mean, throw a hand up if you will say to yourself, I'm not good at math. I'm not good at balance activities in yoga. I'm not good at this. Your brain cannot distinguish between like sarcasm, joking, and real thoughts. If you think it, your body and your brain will embrace that. If it is a thought, it becomes a behavior, it becomes a habit. And so when people ask you how you are, and you say, oh, I'm so tired, oh, I'm so busy, that is a thought that turns into a behavior, turns into a habit. So fake it till you make it is a real thing. But also we have to trick our brains. Our bodies can do things that our brains do not think that we can. Our brain is constantly tricking our body. And so if you say that you're tired or that you're busy, you will think it, it will become a behavior, it will become a habit. And it's the same with our students. So the way to combat that is to use those positive mantras. I am confident. I am grateful. I am doing the things that I want to do. I'm doing the right things. I am strong. I am intentional. And the result is more confident behavior, but it also draws our energy to our prefrontal cortex opposed to away. And we haven't done a whole lot on neuroscience, but in some of my other webinars or talks, we talk about how our brainstem is how we act. Our cortical system is how, our limbic system is how we feel. And then the cortex is how we think. So how we act, how we feel, how we think. And all of our higher level reasoning happens right up here in our prefrontal cortex. And if the way that we act and we feel pulls that energy away from how we think, then that is what's going to happen. It's going to manifest that way in our brains. So very common, simple solutions that if you Google it, and people have probably said this to you multiple times. So write daily in a gratitude journal. Like, why wouldn't you just keep a gratitude journal right next to your bed, and you do it last thing before you go to bed, or you do it first thing when you wake up, or you do it before you open up your email. The thing is that, yeah, it's a great idea, but a lot of us don't do it, even if we know better. So listening to daily positive affirmations, practicing meditation and stillness, and then really the easiest and the one that gives us the most bang for our buck is complimenting others. And I would love to see maybe hands or comments in the chat. How many of you guys work with students or participants that tend to roast each other, that are not really good at shouting out or giving accolades to their peers? I had a group recently come to me, and they were in middle school, and their educators said the only thing we want to get out of this 3-day experience was getting them to speak kindly to one another, to not do that roasting so much. And oh, Martin, thank you, that's so sweet. But talking kindly to one another, and it's just not something that is practiced as much, I think, in our society as it used to be. But I would love to see people practice giving shout outs, practice doing gratitude gifts. We call them warm fuzzies sometimes, and that one gives you the most bang for your buck. However, on the next slide, this is where we're going to jump into the experiential part of Haley. The experiential part of the webinar. So we are going to play, and here we go. And part of gratitude is saying aloud, thank you so much for all of you for giving our team grace, as the technology is not nearly as polished. If we can go to the next slide. There we go. So this is your invitation to choose your level of challenge. For the next few activities, we are going to talk about experiential ways for you to integrate growing gratitude in your practice with activities that can be found on the Kikori platform. These were all called out in your calendar, and we can pull them up on the platform. So without further ado, the first activity is called Web of Kindness. In fact, oh, this is fun. My friend Kip Miller is here. And Kip, I would love for you to explain how you use this activity when you work with students.
Yeah, I'm trying to, can you hear me, Bryn?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I call a web of support, but it's very similar what I did with the kids last year, and I haven't had a chance to do it this year, but what I did is I had each kid have a balloon in the class, and I gave them 10 questions. The balloon represented them as a person, and those questions were based on who's in your family, what's your name, if you have a dog, what support looks for you, like for you. So they had 10 questions on that balloon, and what they did is they shared it with somebody in the class, and then they walked around, and it didn't go as well as I'd hoped in the school. I found it kind of this year, but they walked around the school with protecting that other person's balloon and making sure it didn't get popped, make sure the kids weren't picking on it or whatever you want to call it. And then at the end of the day, we created a circle, and we tossed this piece of yarn around the circle, sharing what was on our balloon, sharing ourselves, creating this big web of support. And then at the very end, the kids threw the balloon in the middle to see if they created enough of a support system. Okay. And it was interesting because some of the kids blew their balloons up very small, and their balloons fell through quickly. Some of the kids blew their balloons up too big and they burst, which is okay. And but the metaphors obviously are there. Do you have enough of a support system? Do you have enough people in your life? are you sharing yourself with people so they know who you are? And I've done that quite a few times, not so much in the public schools. And I found out recently that the kids struggled going throughout the whole day and not breaking other people's balloons on purpose. So there's some good processing there. So I was a little disappointed to find that out like a year later. That's kind of what happened, but with some people. But I think there was definitely enough kids that got enough out of it. The part that I think was a little frustrating is during that web of support, you got to create some safety, and some of the kids sabotaged it pretty quickly, by pulling on the yarn too hard. And some of the kids were, my fingers turning purple, and it's just like, oh, that's not what we're really going for. So obviously, it can be challenging, in that situation. These are kids that I don't work with on a daily basis, being a substitute teacher. So I think it would be good for a teacher that has the kids on a daily basis and has that trust built up already, that they could probably do that. Maybe not have them go around the whole entire school. I can see where some kids would definitely sabotage that pretty quickly, which I guess I didn't anticipate happening as much as I think did. Find out year later, so.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing your variation in your experience with that activity. Has anybody else played this one, is familiar with it? I've seen it work, not work. All right.
I recently did it, Brent, up at camp.
Yeah,
and
you did.
it worked really well. I felt like the kids, when they connected, they opened up, they shared, and it was done pretty quickly. It was done like in an hour, so it wasn't set up the same exact way. But what came out of it, it was the kids shared some pretty opened themselves up. There was like level 1, level 2, level 3 questions, and a lot of the kids really dug pretty deep into sharing themselves with their peers. That created a lot of safety at the beginning of the with them, which was neat. So that's what happened at camp recently.
Yeah.
So.
Well, thank you. Thank you. So Web of Kindness is an activity, and you can do a variation, just like Kip did, as Web of Support, or throw in a different character value there. But for our growing gratitude Web of Kindness, it speaks to that saying kind things to one another. And you can take a ball of yarn, and as they're in a circle, you make sure that you pass the yarn while somebody is holding it, and then the large piece unravels to each individual person. So some of the rules are that everybody has to get it one time before they get it a second time. And a great visual for that is like, if you've already gotten it, cross your arms, or when you are holding the yarn, people can see that they've already received the yarn. And so the first go around is making sure that everybody has received the yarn at least once. And so what is really great about that is it's an opportunity for all of the students to say kind things or give shout outs as they pass that yarn around. And it is a visual representation of all of the kind things. And the more you pass it around, the more connected they will feel, and visually be represented by this web of kindness that is being created. And at the end of the activity, a thing that you can do is cut small pieces so that they all have a piece of that web to remind them as a token or even an anchor artifact that talks about their relationship with the rest of the class, with the rest of the group. And in the app, there's reflection questions for you to lead a meaningful debrief. just talking about why it's important. And when you pose these questions to the group and the group gives you their genuine answers, it creates more autonomy, choice, and buy-in as they reflect on the practice that they just did with you. And hopefully it lays a foundation that you can come back to this activity and either do it again or just recall it as a group, and say, hey, remember when we did that thing and we noticed that we're grateful for every single person in this circle, and there's always something that we can be grateful for everybody. And that gives us an opportunity to reset when it comes to growing gratitude and building community in our classroom. The next activity in our playlist is called Touch Someone Who. And the version that we have on the app, one of the versions, was submitted by Marilyn Levin, and it is a play for peace activity. And when I have played this, it has been a very powerful gratitude building activity and representation. And so what I do is I have all of my participants sit in a circle and close their eyes, and I will get a few people up to be the touchers, and they're going to walk around the outside of the circle. Think of like Duck, Duck, Goose. If you live in Minnesota, Duck, Duck, Gray Duck. And I will ask a question or give a prompt. And that question is, or prompt is, touch someone who makes a difference in our classroom or has made a difference in our program. Touch someone who is a good role model. Touch someone who you admire. Touch someone who cares about other people. Touch someone who you trust. And they walk around and we'll tap them on the shoulder. And once those touchers have gone around, then they will sit back down in the circle, and you can select new touchers for the next round. And the next round can be touch someone who has helped you grow, touch someone who has supported you, touch someone who makes good decisions, touch someone who is excellent at their work, touch someone who is helpful and supportive. And then you can rotate touchers so that everybody has an opportunity to be this toucher. Touch somebody who has a great attitude. Touch somebody who you want to get to know more. Touch somebody who you have a shared memory with. Touch somebody who helps you see your own strength and ability. Touch someone who you believe has a strength and ability that they don't even see themselves. And all of going around, and hopefully, if you as a facilitator see somebody not getting touched, then you can go and intervene and walk around a little bit as well. You can also encourage people to think outside of the box. This tends to be a very powerful closing activity, either at the end of the day or the week or the program semester. Has anybody else heard of this activity, used it before, want to share successes or failures, either aloud or in the chat?
I've used a variation of this with adults, so we called it physical voting. It was about storytelling, and what it was is everybody would sit around tables. It's a whole thing where tell stories to the table, switch tables, tell your same story, do it again, and at the end people would go put their hand on the person whose story moved them the most. And what ends up happening is people will congregate around the people who told powerful stories. And that's how we find out who can tell those stories. And I think you could do the same thing if you create that same list, a similar list, and say, go put your hand on the shoulder of the person you're grateful for, or somebody who did something kind for you. And it's that wonderful chaos that then separates out into these wonderful little living acknowledgments.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I love that. Oh, I love that variation. That's so good. Thank you for sharing.
And it's amazing to see CEOs do it.
Mm. Mm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. Angie says that she hasn't used this yet. And that's that growth mindset. But ooh, 6th grade class. Yeah, my biological son is in 6th grade, and they are particularly hormonal, I think, this year. It's it's so interesting, to have certain grade levels have different stereotypes, but knowing this particular crew of kids, because my child is in it, I've known them and worked with them since they were in 4K, and then to see them in middle school, yeah, it's great that you can identify that they need more team building, and creating the space for that is going to affect the positive effects will be like ripples on a lake. And so good luck, and certainly reach out. We want to hear how it goes. So that is touch someone who, and again, all of the instructions are right in the app. And then the last activity that I have in our playlist is called appreciation sheets. And the way this one is written is that everybody in the group gets a sheet of paper and they put their name on it, and then you would post it around the room or leave it at their desk, and then everybody gets up and moves around to everybody else's sheet and writes an appreciation on it. We do a variation of this called palanca bags, and everybody gets a paper bag and they get to decorate it. Think like elementary school Valentine's exchange. And then people write on scraps and drop in the little warm fuzzies or palanca notes to their brown bag that they have decorated. The way that it is written in the app has an opportunity for students, if it is a smaller group, for when they are done, to have the student stand and read the statements as I am statements. And again, this is where some of that neuroscience comes in of, if we say something, if we think it, then it becomes true to our brain. Even if we don't maybe necessarily believe it, if we say it aloud, our brain doesn't know that. And we can sort of hijack our own system. And if you say, I am brave, or I am funny, or I am clever, and if they read, what's on their appreciation sheet as an I am statement, that can be very, very powerful. Again, to respect sort of maybe privacy and stuff like that too. You can have them read it silently to themselves. You could have them journal their own response to it. This is another one where if it is not front loaded well, I have seen students not take it seriously, and they did not write necessarily kind things. And so that is something where, just like what Kip was saying, is any activity can go sideways, depending on your clientele. And so it's really good to front load the seriousness of it. It's really good to share information around the brain science with your participants, with your students, with your clients, corporate or otherwise, because we are arming them with information. And if we talk about how powerful this can be if it's taken seriously, that they will get those benefits of it. Hopefully that will help mitigate some of that risk of somebody being hurtful. And again, reframing some of that, that is very connection seeking behavior. Somebody who would use an activity like this to write something that maybe isn't kind anonymously, they are not feeling good themselves. And it is more of a reflection on them than it is on you as a facilitator, an educator, a teacher, or of the other child, and youth, grown up, whoever they are. But just wanted to say that. Has anybody else done a variation of appreciation sheets or palankas or warm fuzzies? I've even done it when I'm overnighting with kids, either like in a cabin or in tents, where we'll say good nights, and we'll go around and we'll say good night and a kind thing until everybody's been said good night to. Just a couple of variations on that. Oh, nice. Flip chart paper on somebody's back. That's nice. Cool. All right. Yeah. In a Wordle document, I love it. Yeah, make sure the pens don't bleed. Yeah, helpful information. Also, if any of you send your kids to camp, biological kids to camp, make sure you're labeling their clothes. But I also, I wrote my last name up and down my pants while labeling their clothes, and it leaked through their clothes onto the leg of my pant. It looked like I was in middle school practicing my future husband's last name. All right, so the next slide is what we call a playlist, and it is these activities in this order in a collection on the Kikori platform. And so if you tomorrow, this week, later this month are like, oh gosh, Bryn gave us some really good activities, but I don't remember what they were or what order. Here it is in this order so that you can recall it on saying, hey, here's 3 activities that I can use in my practice to grow gratitude, with step-by-step instructions for prep, play, and then reflect, connect, and grow debriefing questions. So Kikori is a community-driven platform with over 1,000 validated activities from leading facilitators and educators in our field. I just got back from a conference and so many friends that have contributed their content. We were all in the same room, and it really just warms my heart to know that there are people out there doing the work, and so excited that they are willing to share it with me and with you on this easily accessible platform so that we can search and filter and find the right activities. Yes, so all of our activities, regardless of who submits them, are aligned with CASEL's standards. So 29 states mandate social and emotional learning be done during the school day, and there's not often, it doesn't feel like there's time. So all of our activities are aligned with standards. And every single activity, regardless of who submits it, follows the experiential learning cycle so that you can count on the same format. Students, or for you to learn exactly what you need to be able to play an activity and then to talk about it afterwards, to reflect on what happened, connect it to other areas of their life in the connect questions, and grow, where they can internalize and apply that learning in the direction that they want, so that they are being intentional and proactive in their thought process instead of reactive the next time that you play, reflect, connect, and grow. Some of our reflections, they are built in for optimism. And so this is an example of what it would look like. And here's some of our fun stuff. Go back one. Oh, no, it is that one. Thank you, Haley. Did you know that you can bring Kikori to your whole school, organization, or program? So Haley or I would be happy to meet with you to give more information about how it works. There's a link in our Calendlies to schedule a time. Know that this is a no obligation meeting, but these are some of our partner programs who have brought Kikori on for their staff, not just for 1 or 2 users, but for all of their staff, so that they can leverage it in a unified way. We'd also love for you to join our Facebook community. This is a zero-cost way to support us, and it is called the K-12 Experiential Social Emotional Learning Community. There's a number of really fun and brilliant educators in this group. They are the best people to talk to if you have questions or concerns, if you've had something go sideways and you want to talk about it with someone, or you need somebody to ideate. Everybody hates asking for help, but we as educators all love helping one another. We also love jumping into other people's chats and comment threads to offer our opinions. And so know that this is a safe place to explore experiential and social emotional learning.
And I have to put the link for both of those things in the chat. So,
okay.
yeah.
Yes.
For this slide, I will.
John, because John Lucy is one of our newest contributors to content on the app. And so our two-dimensional pickle people, John has one just for him, and I love that. In 2 weeks, we have a professional learning community. That is where there's less content and more open time for us to discuss specifically and how it's going to go with your students, or how it went, or what our wins, what our losses were, how we want to reflect, connect, and grow based on the experiences that we are having. And so that will be in this same Zoom format where we all get to hang out. So Judy is longtime attendee, one of my favorite people to work through those problems with and do those check-ins. We've created a really wonderful professional learning community that is supportive and open and meets regularly, because that's important. John also has a really great professional learning community that he does with his open office hours or his coffee chats. And there's just so much value in these informal times spent together to just see what we all need and what we can offer. So that is in 2 weeks. So Haley has put the links in the chat. And we are right at the top of the hour. The last slide is that sharing is caring. And again, zero cost way to support us is to like, comment, and share on all of our socials. So I don't know how all of the algorithms work, but if you could engage with all of those, it helps us reach more people. And it's simple click of a few buttons and sharing it with somebody who cares. So Haley, if you want to go to the next one. We are on all of the best platforms. Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and LinkedIn. If you haven't followed our TikToks, we have an educator. Her name is Emily, and she's just adorable and absolutely brilliant, very trendy, very relevant, entertaining, and would love for you to send some clicks her way. And that is it. We are at 5 o'clock. Haley and I will hang out if anybody has any questions, wants to talk about something, or we can schedule it. But thank you so much for joining, for your attention, for participating either on video or in the chat, aloud or not. And I am grateful for you and this opportunity. Thank you, each of you. I'm going to stop recording.
Thanks, Brett.